A restaurant, well, you know what it's like. I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to say this or something, but someone's always fucking somebody in a restaurant. You know, there's always a cesspool of drugs and alcohol, and, you know, you put wine and beer and people and men and women together, and boys and girls and whatever, and you get late nights, and you get 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know, you get amazing things happen in this industry. So there is the most fantastic kind of movie waiting to happen.
What is the rock pool?
Well, I think in reality it's sort of it's my home, because I spend an awful lot of time here. I think about it a lot. It's really the linchpin that holds all the other activities of my business together. Both my parents are Australian, and I grew up in Sydney. I was born in '57. My father was so influential and such an important part of my life and my drive towards food.
Oh, why?
Because he was a butcher, because he was a fisherman, because he grew his own vegetables in the backyard.
Where was this?
Well, we lived in Blakehurst down in Baldface Point. We had enough land. His vegetable garden was his passion.
Right.
He used to when we would have a barbecue at home, Dad would bring home a whole rump steak and cut thick slices off, barbecue it beautifully, slice it up. I mean, that's how the family ate.
You're not even Greek.
I'm not even Greek, no. And, you know, I mean, things like choco and passion fruit and tomatoes and eggplant, we dug the spuds out of the backyard. So I actually had a sort of an affinity with produce, if you like. I mean, I would stand there with him and we'd fillet fish that he caught. We'd go down and we'd go prawning together. We'd shuck oysters together. So to me, food was very natural. 25, I decided to start cooking, and I went to see a great friend of mine, Damien Pignolet. I spoke to him. He said, "Look, come and work with me for a little while." Then I went and worked with Stephanie.
You went and worked for Stephanie?
Yeah, for 3 months in Melbourne, and then I went for 3 months and worked with you and me with Jenny Ferguson, who doesn't cook anymore, but used to do beautiful things here.
What was so interesting about Damien Pignolet's food?
Like mine, it's very produce driven.
Right.
Particularly at Claude's, I used to love the simplicity of it. You know, a fantastic terrine, a beautiful souffle, a beautifully roasted piece of guinea fowl with a gorgeous silky puree. You know, very much the way I love to eat and the way my food goes, although I have a lot more layers of flavour, perhaps because of the Asian influence.
Yes.
You know, I was sort of self-taught, really. I mean, Damien said, go and read everything that Elizabeth David and Jane Grigson and Escoffier. So, I mean, I just sort of started reading everything I could about food. And, you know, everything grows here. Kaffir lime leaf, lemongrass, galanga. Why wouldn't you use that in your cuisine? Because, you know, it grows here just as English spinach and tomatoes and eggplant do. So as a chef, I would just find it crazy that you wouldn't avail yourself to this beautiful produce. I was lucky enough to be in Sydney at a time when you could probably get away with, you know, learning to cook as you go. It's a lot more difficult now. I mean, the investment you've got to make to open a restaurant, the things that you have to do, it was really easy back then. I mean, I've been cooking for a year, and Leo Schofield sent the kids a star, and that's ridiculous. So, you know, you can't do, I mean, you know, you shouldn't be able to do that, and you can't do that now.
Now, notice you've got other distractions. You do the stuff at Qantas.
Yeah, well, Qantas is a big thing for us.
You do your own TV show.
Yep.
I mean, why are you doing all this sort of stuff? Do you have to do that today?
Well, I think you have to. It's part of the marketing. It's part of the revenue source for me. I've got some really good consulting jobs, like many of the chefs do in Europe, but they pay much better.
What's your process in creating your food?
It's produce driven.
Right.
So it's what's in the marketplace, it's what's seasonal, it's what my growers are growing for me, what my fishermen are catching for me.
But then what do you do with it?
Well, then it's doing the things that I love doing. So it's maybe bringing it alive with spice, or it's maybe working with beautiful aromatics like lemongrass and galanga. It's maybe working with things that are very simple, like beautiful fresh vegetable flavours. We make some sauces where we juice fresh vegetables and braise vegetables in those juices, and it's just really about layering flavours up. So my food's really about texture and flavour, and always about things like aroma, which are really important. A lot of Western cooks don't think like that, but because I cook a lot of Eastern food,
yes,
smell is one of the most important things.
And a plain green salad with that.
food here has full flavours, has Asian mixes, has lots of other mixes as well.
Yeah.
But the wine also has a lot of sun.
Yes.
You know, it's really fruit driven. You know, there's a lot of beautiful, elegant wines, but they still have that wonderful, robust fruit flavours. That works with our food. I mean, you know, Australian Riesling is some of the best wine in the world to drink with some of the, you know, spicier, more aromatic dishes that we, you know, create in this country.
You can balance it off. It's not not
absolutely.
a disaster in terms of
no, and
flavour overload.
No, not at all. My food is like, you know, very simple looking, but more complex in flavour. So I don't run around and do all the dots and do all the stripes and cut things into pretty shapes and...
Oh, really?
No, so that's not what I do. So,
why?
yeah, don't have the time. And don't have the inclination. I mean, to me, food is really natural and organic, and that's... You know, I'm more concerned about where it came from, and did the farmer look after it, and what did it eat, and was it humanely killed, or was it well fished, or was it beautifully looked after, and are we looking after it once we get it into the restaurant? That whole thing really comes from, again, from my father. You know, we cut up the fish, we cut up the meat, we pick the vegetables out of the ground. So many people around the world, and particularly lots of chefs around the world, they have no idea where things come from.
Why has food become so fashionable?
Well, I think it's people are concerned. You know, there was a whole time where only the French and Italians and the Spanish seemed concerned about food. Everybody in the New World,
yes.
and plus England, because they've been isolated from food for so long in their life, you know, is trying to catch up with people who really understand food. And I think part of that is the communication level. So print media, television.
But nobody cooks.
Well, they don't. But you know, a lot of people say that. But I think they do.
Yes.
I think they do cook. But
I think this is the irony.
I think people actually have a situation where they fulfil their sort of skillless life with food by watching somebody else prepare it. So it's almost like
chef,
it's like you're sitting there watching this happen, and you go, oh, I'm hungry now, and you can eat, but you feel like you've done something, you know, because you've actually participated in the food program. So this business has everything in it. And that's one of the great things about it, you know. It's like, you get a complaint letter,
yes.
and seriously, it's like somebody tearing your heart out. And then really lovely people write and say, you made our, you know, year, our life, our whatever. And you walk around and everyone's so happy because that's what we're here for.